gentlemen, we are here at City Hall at September the 18th, 2018 at 6 o'clock here at City Hall, 116 West Bridge Street, Granbury, Texas. The Granbury City Council regular council meeting is now called to order. One thing of order here, I want to let you know that Councilman Greg Corrigan will not be with us tonight. He's got some family issues, and we definitely want to keep his family in our prayers today. I'd like to call upon Father Stuart Smith with the Good Shepherd Aguilan Church to lead us in our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge, led by Councilman Allen. All rise, please.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, giver of every perfect gift and supreme governor of all the councils of the world, we thank you for each of these members of this council and the sacrifices they make to deliberate on our behalf. Look down with mercy, wisdom, and loving kindness on this Granbury City Council. Where they are in need of insight, shine the light of the Holy Spirit. Where they are in need of patience and forbearance, pour out the peace and serenity of Jesus, the crucified lover of every soul. Where they lack courage and valor, share with them your own brave heart of strength and character. May every word spoken, every vote cast, and every decision made here tonight be a blessing to the citizens of this city and be pleasing in your sight. Through Christ the King we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Y'all join me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
We got these.
Looks like we have a good crowd tonight. We got enough seats out there? Hope so. At this time, we were going to move into our proclamation. We have a proclamation today that is recognizing Constitution Week, and at this time, I'd like to read that proclamation. We have with us tonight Margaret Cook, who represents the DAR. Margaret, you want to come up here? I promise not to keep you standing very long here. Margaret, I met Margaret some time ago. She's been pretty involved with the DAR for many, many years, right? Many years, so thank you for that. The proclamation goes as, whereas September 17th, 2018 marks the 231st anniversary of drafting the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation. And whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas the Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America and designating September the 17th through September the 23rd as Constitution Week. So now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Nen Hewlett, the Mayor of the City of Granbury, do hereby proclaim September the 17th through the 23rd, 2018 as Constitution Week. And in Granbury, I urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privileges of being an American with all the rights and the responsibilities which that privilege involves. Thank you very much. The council will now move into its consent agenda. Excuse me. Those items being, number one, to consider approving the city council meeting minutes of September the 4th, 2018 regular meeting and September 10th, 2018 special meeting. Number two, consider adopting ordinance number 1860 regarding Atmos Energy Corporation proposal to increase natural gas rates pursuant to its statement of intent filed on about June the 1st, 2018. And number three was to consider approving an engineering service agreement with McCord Engineering for the management and construction phase of the transmission and distribution power lines relocation project in support of the Granbury Regional Airport expansion. And number four is to consider adopting ordinance number 1861, amending the general fund, utility fund, and the tourism fund budget for fiscal year 2017-18, which once again, this is basically housekeeping for the financial department there. So council, you've had an opportunity to look at the consent agenda and all those items. Are there any items on there you wish to change or to pull off of the consent agenda at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
So,
I have a motion by Councilperson Reiner
so moved. Second.
and a second by Councilman Allen. Council, any more discussion on the consent agenda items? If no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Those are approved. Next, council, we're going to move into the deliberation agenda. I didn't have an opportunity to look at this until after the staff meeting, but what I'd like to do tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move item number 11, which is the last item, up to the first of the deliberation agenda. And that being said, it involves moving a council meeting. So with those people that are out there, the staff and people like that are going to be involved in this, give them an opportunity to see what dates we're going to have and where we're going to have on this. So at this time, I'll move item number 11 up to the top, which is to consider rescheduling the October 2nd, 2018 regular city council meeting. And in order to do that, we have to do one, suspend the City of Granbury City Council Rules and Procedures, Section 2.1 of the regular meeting, and then we need to set a time and a date for the first meeting in October 2018. As you know, Council, this is one of the first days of the conference down in Fort Worth, and there's also a conference at the Association of Rural Cities in Texas that a lot of the council people are going to be attending because there's a lot of good information. There's a lot of networking, a lot of things that they need to be a part of there. So they will be out of town also. So there basically will not be a quorum for that date. So it's really important that we set another date so that the staff has the opportunity to do the thing. And I'm going to let Chris kind of emphasize that a little bit, or what that does to us when we move it, and what the dates are that would be good dates. Would you please, Chris?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Obviously, we need to plan ahead, and the date being a conflict with having a quorum is important to work out. So, is it working?
Can you hear him out there?
So,
Barely.
all right. Well, can you all turn it up? All right, I'll just talk louder. How's that?
There you go.
Hey, so what we need to do is set a, we like to have 2 meetings a month, and October 2nd, we won't have a quorum, and if we meet on October 9th, that would be fine. The thing is we have P&Z issues that need to be public noticed in the paper in advance of this meeting, and so that's why we need the council to take action tonight and establish when that meeting would be. We could meet on the 16th is our normal second meeting, so we need to have that. And then we could meet on the 9th if we meet early enough, and we could meet on the 15th. So really, just whatever works for y'all. We could even do it different. We could have our first meeting on the 16th and roll on down 2 weeks to the 23rd or the 30th if you wanted. So I'm just looking at my calendar. I'm just trying to keep it on Tuesdays for you.
Is Scott in here? Is he?
No.
Okay. But you're sure that
we can have those
go,
public hearings on the 16th.
Because nothing's already been planned for the first. Okay.
That we could do. So this first meeting just needs to be at your leisure, really.
Okay.
If you changed it,
Councilman Allen?
thank you, Mayor. If you changed it to the 9th, would you change the one on the 16th to the 23rd?
No.
Just do it the regular
Right.
next week?
Right.
Okay, I have no problem with that.
So those are the options, council, that Chris has rolled out. And like I say, once again, in order to do this, we would first have to suspend the city Granbury Council rules and procedures, because we are required to have the two meetings, and it does say in those rules and procedures you have it on the first and the third Tuesday. So that's all we're doing, is saying we're going to have our two meetings, but we're not going to have it on the first and the third Tuesday of the month. So, council, is there any questions and concerns on this? So at this time, I'll entertain a motion for the suspending of the city council rules and procedures.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Mobley,
Second.
and I have a second by Councilman Couch. All in favor, any more discussion, council? All in favor of suspending the rules and procedures on that, for that particular item, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That is approved. Next, we will set a time and a date for the first meeting in October 2018, and I will entertain a motion to set that time and place in meeting.
Mayor, I say let's set it on September 9th, 6 o'clock
Here at City Hall.
here at City
So
Hall.
we've got a motion by Councilman Allen to reset the meeting for the regular council meeting for October the 9th,
Second.
2000, oh, sorry, what?
I'm seconding.
Oh.
Just giving a second.
Let me get it out of my,
6 p.m.
yeah. So we're gonna, here we go. We have a motion to set the meeting for October the 9th, 6 o'clock, here at City Hall for the regular council meeting. Do I have a second? And we have a second by Councilperson Reiner. Council, any more discussion on that item? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That is approved. So everybody can set their calendars for October the 9th for our first council meeting in October. Moving on to the deliberation agenda now with item number 5, it is to consider adopting ordinance number 1862, approving levying a property ad valorem tax rate for the city of Granbury for the fiscal year 2018-19. I'm going to call upon the city manager to give us a little background from the staff on that, if you would please.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, this item is the final act of walking through the budget process. If you'll recall, back in June, we had our first public hearing. We talked about taxation. We talked about the need to increase taxes 2 cents to service the debt for the fire trucks that we're purchasing. We decided not to do that, and we cut some other programs and are going to fund that debt service this year out of the general fund. And so it keeps the tax rate the same as last year, which is, let me read it,
9385.
per $100 evaluation. So it's the same rate. If you take into account the exact same appraised values of the property that's not new, it would raise taxes about $79,000 in additional revenue. So we're using that towards the general fund, and also some other things we've done to actually fund that debt service. So that's what we've gone through the public hearings, 2 public hearings. We've adopted a budget acknowledging this is the tax rate that funds that budget. So the final act tonight is to vote on this tax rate to move forward. And so there's some specific wording.
I'll read that. I'll go ahead and
Okay.
do the motion, yeah. So Chris has rolled out what it does to us and where we're at there, and there is a specific wording language that we would have to enter into the motion. And if there's any other questions or concern, council, I'll go and read that. If none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 1862, levying the property tax rate of 0.201280 for the purpose of maintenance and operations, and the property tax rate of 0.198105 for the payment of principal and interest on the outstanding debt of the city of Granbury for fiscal year 2018-19. And that is in accordance to tax code 26.05. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Mobley
Second.
and a second by Councilman Allen. Council, any more discussion on this tax rate? Councilman Allen, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilman Couch?
Yay.
Councilman Mobley?
Aye.
And Councilperson Reiner?
Aye.
That is approved. Thank you very much. Did we cover everything, Ava? Our next item is to consider approving the proposed Visit Granbury Incorporated annual budget for the fiscal year 2018-19. Council, there were some, as you know, as the newspaper put out, I was on vacation last week. They let everybody know that. So there was an article in the paper that indicated that there was a letter that I had drew up, and that is correct. I did draw up a letter and had planned on presenting that to the council, to the citizens, to the Visit Granbury, and this letter was merely it was my thoughts on the internal audit that was handled, and Ava had talked about this internal audit at our prior council meeting. So with that said, in leading off on this item here, I would like to read this. I'm going to read this to the council and the members out there. As I said, most of those points in the paper were the correct, but I want to hear them from me. And it says, approximately 3 years ago, the City Council had acted to redirect the funding and the hotel occupancy tax dollars that the city administered through the Convention and Visitors Bureau. This resulted in the loss of 3 full-time and 2 part-time budgeted positions, totaling $274,372. At the time of this workforce reduction, the council was actively involved in creation of the Visit Granbury Incorporation, the new standalone nonprofit organization formed to administer the hot tax dollars with a focus on increasing hotel, tourism, and conference industry revenues benefiting the city and local businesses. So as you're aware, the city has been appropriating 90% of the hot tax revenue to the city of Granbury and to Visit Granbury, I'm sorry, and $50,000 from the general fund. That was a total of an excess of $750,000 per year. Now this is handled in a fiduciary manner on behalf of the citizens of Granbury. The city manager, Chris Kaufman, here is in his regular course of performing his job duties, is responsible for the administrative oversight that ensures that the city funds are spent in an efficient and a responsible manner as the City Council directs. And as part of this responsibility, an internal audit of the VGI was recently performed. The internal audit report was provided by our Director of Finance, Eva Gregory, and she provided comments and recommendations to, and here again, she made these commendations to the City Council at that meeting and to VGI in the matter of irregular or inappropriate financial activities. I agree, and I think most of the council agree with Ms. Gregory's comments and recommendations. I also believe it is my responsibility to voice my concerns and my observations, and they are as follows. The VGI obviously has a difficult time locating staff to fill positions with the organization. This is evident in the fact that during most of the 3 years of existence, the marketing position has been vacant and more weeks than it has been staffed.
Mayor, I've got a question.
Let me finish, Ms. Couch, and then if there's any questions on my letter, keep them and we'll review them. But this is merely in my thoughts on what's been going on. I've been listening to it go back and forth, and so I wanted to voice mine and voice what the letter actually said. So the director and the part-time staff
That's not on the agenda. Point of order.
Yes, it is on the agenda.
The audit's on the agenda again?
This whole thing is on the agenda, okay?
No, what's on the agenda is to approve the proposed
Councilman
Visit
Couch,
Granbury
I am going to
budget.
continue to read the letter that I was going to present to you as a councilman.
Go ahead and violate
okay? So it is apparent to me that the existing marketing position has been vacant for more than weeks than it has been staffed. So this leaves the executive director and a part-time staff to fill this crucial position while at the same time trying to efficiently operate. It is apparent to me that the VGI Board of Directors may have lost a little focus on the city's funding agreements and requirements, and this is all coming from the observation of Ms. Gregory's and their operating bylaws. This is evident when reading Ms. Gregory's comments and recommendations through this audit letter. Now, I don't believe that VGI understands, or maybe they do, but of what the hot funds are to be used in promoting our local hotel, tourism, and amenity draws and the conference industry stays. This is also evident by the executive director's reports to the city council when you read all the reports. Until recently, VGI has not been working real closely, and I say until recently because it just came about here probably in the last week or so. Until recently, it has not been working real closely with hotel industry stakeholders or the Lake Granbury Conference Center staff or facilitate host special events that generate these overnight stays at our local lodging. Events that bring dollars to our city and our local business. This is supported by the executive director's June 19th statement to the council during the city's annual budget workshop where she stated this is not our job. And we went back and forth on that. So the VGI Board of Directors executed an employment agreement with the executive director in an effort to entice her and to move to Granbury. So within the agreement, the board was to evaluate the executive director and after 6 months and then on an annual basis. This evaluation, for me and the council, had not occurred, but I'm understanding that there was an evaluation out there, and I'm hearing rumors that there was 2 evaluations, not real good evaluations, but there were some evaluations. So possibly that agreement has been fulfilled. The VGI Board of Directors consists of really good-hearted volunteers with full-time businesses and careers, and they hired this executive director to guide the organization in appropriate and physical responsible manner. I believe that the working relationship between VGI and the city has greatly deteriorated and should immediately be placed in a corrective action plan, which I'm sure it will be. The VGI Board of Directors should follow their adopted bylaws, the funding agreement with the city, and all the adopted personnel requirements and procedures. Providing this leadership would probably solve many of these matters. Finally, and here you go, Mr. Couch, that's how this ties in. If the council votes to continue funding VGI, which is what's on the agenda tonight, we should be careful to ensure that these tax dollars are wisely invested. And currently, there is no mention within the VGI business meeting minutes of any dollar amounts approval for any level of expenditures for any of the projects. This responsibility has been solely placed upon the executive director. This is inappropriate. The contracting for services should have a scope of work to be delivered for a specific service time and a specific price for the service or the goods. The VGI Board of Directors should take steps to take a more active role in controlling these funds and directing how they are spent. So I hope, in closing, that the VGI will endeavor to partner with the city and function on behalf of the city and local businesses with the focused laser effort to, once again, stimulate hotel, tourism, and conference industry revenues. Bringing these dollars to the town makes a better Granbury for all of us. So there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts in there, a lot of things that I have set up here and listened to back and forth that don't seem to be getting fixed. And so there has to be a plan with the board of directors and that group and the city council here to get those things fixed. I will entertain any questions or comments on my letter, but this is merely my letter to let people know what my feelings are with what's been going on here back and forth, because tonight we are looking at an agenda item of considering approving and the proposed Visit Granbury annual budget. And I haven't called upon Chris Kaufman yet to see exactly what they presented, but that'll be the next step, and then you will have the opportunity to see if that is what you wanted to accept as a council.
Mayor, could I?
Council, any questions?
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Allen.
I got 2 questions. First one is, will you read that last paragraph about that you read in that letter?
I'll probably even give you a copy of this if you want.
I'd love to have a copy. The newspaper got one.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
And that was my second question.
I hope VGI will endeavor to partner with the city and function on behalf of the city and local businesses with focused laser effort to stimulate hotel tours and conference industry revenues, bringing these dollars to town. And I hope they do that with the budget that they present that I have not seen yet.
There you go. Okay, my other question was, we're on the council. We're setting up here and we're making decisions on this organization. How did Kathy Cruz or Hood County News get a copy of this letter?
Well, now that part of it is not part of the agenda item.
Well, no, wait a minute now. I don't think this letter was part of it if you don't know the truth.
Yes, it was.
But if you're going to leak that information, if you can leak that information to the paper, which is great, because we got a few people up here that's got
And that
real good
information, well, in answering your
connection with
question,
them. But
in answering
Mayor,
your question,
can you answer the question or
answer
not?
your question, it was brought up through open records request.
How could it
and
be open record? You hadn't read it.
It was a working document, and I agree, Mr. Allen, but after talking to some folks, they can actually see a working
I'm
document.
sure you talked to them.
Oh,
I got a
I
question for
did,
the
but yeah.
attorney. I got a question for the attorney. May I speak to him, Mayor?
Sure.
Mr. Attorney,
Huh?
to get open records from
No,
this.
no,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Allen, okay, we're off point now.
This is about your letter,
No, we're off
Mayor.
point, we're off point.
Well, so were you. So were you.
The item, no, I was talking
Yes,
about the
you
budget.
were. It doesn't, no words on here saying anything
Talking
about your
about the
letter.
budget.
Not
Consider
one place
approving the
it says anything about
proposed
your
Visit
letter.
Granbury budget. So I
No,
wanted to
you're
leave
right.
it-
It says budget. It doesn't say anything about
And
your
everything
letter.
I talked about is concerning the
Why, are
budget.
you scared for him to answer for you?
I'm just talking about what
Are
we're
you
going to
scared
do.
for the attorney to answer?
I'm not scared of anything.
Well, then I can ask
But
you.
we're
Thank
not,
you, Mayor. I
we're not going
appreciate
to
that.
deviate from the agenda
City
item.
Attorney, I'm going to ask you the question. He said he wasn't scared. To open record, to get open record on anything in this city, it's got to be filed, or it's got to be written and voted on up here or discussed up here. Is that right or wrong?
No, we get open records requests every day, and whatever documents we're required to turn over, we turn over.
But they got to be there, oh, don't they?
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Were they there, Mayor?
Yeah.
Would you like for me to?
This was
Let
part
Chris
of,
help you out. It was
No, that
probably
doesn't
him
do
that wrote the letter. It's a good letter, by the way.
Thank you. Chris, you got something to say?
Yeah, there was a public information request for all emails, between city staff and council members in a certain time period. And within those, I discovered this email was sent to my staff to put on a letterhead, and we had to release it based on the Open Meeting, or the Open Records Act.
What date was that?
Of the request,
Of that being filed, that you knew about it?
I knew about it the day he did it because I instructed my
I'm sure you did.
staff to put it on the letterhead. He sent it to her and told me he'd done it. Could we put it on the letterhead? And so, yeah, it's there. So anyway, we released it based on the request, and we held it for a while, waiting to figure out if we were supposed to release it.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally looked through the law and studied it, and there was no exemption for that document to be withheld.
And Jeremy said it was okay to release it?
Well, I asked Jeremy about that, and he didn't agree with that interpretation. But I'm sorry, I can't agree with him.
So you don't listen to the attorney?
I didn't listen to him on that. He didn't necessarily disagree. He just thought it was wrong to not send it to the AG's office for an opinion. So,
And Mr. Allen, as I stated, this is my observation, my opinion. I could have stood up here and just said it, at will, but I wanted to make notes and make sure that what I was saying was true. And all the things, and this was an observation off of the audit. And the audit involves the budget.
Mayor, I'm just curious, what computer did you write that
Pardon?
letter on? What computer did you write the letter on?
My iPad.
So the IP address will connect to that letter then?
Well, that's where they got it from.
Okay.
From your personal one?
What does it was my letter to you guys.
Okay.
Well, when did we get
I
it?
had a simple question.
When did we get it?
Because
Still a Hood County
exactly,
News.
Mr. Allen, it was not done yet. It was not complete when I went on vacation.
It's not right for Chris to release it. I agree with Jeremy on that.
Well, I hope you win that one.
Sir?
I hope you win that one because I didn't really like it coming out. That's what I said in the beginning of this meeting. I would rather been the one to read it than the Hood County News. But they didn't.
I just can't believe our city manager did that when the attorney told him not to.
my job is to follow the letter of the
That's
law.
right. He followed the letter of the.
Not about what
I will
Jeremy
take-
said.
I
And he
will
went-
take the hit.
And he
Not
went
what
all the
Jeremy
way.
just
He
said.
went all the way to TML to make sure that they could retrieve a working document, and that's what it was.
I met with an attorney that works from the AG's office, that works in the Open Records Division, and specifically asked the question if this was an exempt item. I was told no.
Do we need a city attorney then? If
Yeah,
you're
you
gonna
need a
go over
city
his head?
attorney. I'm going to go over his head when he doesn't follow the law.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Mobley.
If that ever happens, I will be doing that.
Councilman Mobley. I hope you're putting us back on track.
It's amazing how transparency draws such ire from some of the group. I would like to thank you for being more transparent than we have been in the past. The fact that we have an open records request that is not a violation and it is submitted as requested, why do we fight this? And that's the only point I would like to make.
And so what we're here to do, though, is to consider approving the proposed Visit Granbury annual budget. So if there's no more questions on my letter, I will turn this over to Chris Coughlin to give us what he has so far from the Visit Granbury budget.
Mayor, I'd like to suspend the rules so that we can...
We're not voting yet.
No, I'd like to suspend the rules for this agenda item.
Okay, at this time, I have a motion to suspend the rules for this agenda item. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second to suspend the rules for this agenda item. Any more discussion? Councilman Allen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Couch, how do you vote? Councilman Mobley, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councilman Reiner, how do you vote?
No.
And I have a vote to break the tie. I vote no. We will not suspend the rules. Moving on, once again, consider approving the proposed Visit Granbury Incorporated annual budget. Once again, Chris Kaufman.
All right, thank
What do you have for us?
In your budget or your iPad, in the Dropbox, you have an updated version of the proposed budget from Visit Granbury. I got that today. If you'll remember, in your margin of your actual working document, it had how much we had appropriated written in blue ink in the margin. And so now then their budget mirrors what we have appropriated. So we don't have a discrepancy there. They did move forward to, as promised, to fund a position for sales, and they're proposing to take $60,000 out of the VGI reserve funds to amend the budget or to add to the budget to be able to help staff and pay for that position. And there's some other items that were in there. So the business development sales base salary and sales incentive was added to that, and that's in that $60,000. And trade shows and registration expenses is highlighted in yellow on your spreadsheet as well. And then sales materials, those totaling $25,000. So those are added from the original post that was presented back in June at your workshop. Altogether, the total budget, they anticipate generating $10,000 in revenue, and altogether the requested amount is $717,000 from the hot funds and $50,000 from the general funds. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
For sure they have some. So council, there you have the budget, not only on your iPad, but from our city manager's view. Do you have any questions for the city manager? Or I guess we have a representative here from Visit Granbury, and so if you have some questions for them also, we'll have a representative, probably the director, to answer those questions.
Councilmember Couch sent a spreadsheet this afternoon. We're trying to get that in this screen. There it is. That was something he wanted to cover, and so I thought I'd pull that up. I didn't know if we were
Councilman Couch, you want to go ahead and cover this one while we've got it up?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I feel it's important that my fellow council members and the public here understand why I'm in support of the proposed budget. It's a difficult thing. I think it's an impossible thing to measure the uniqueness of our town when it comes to hot tax because of the outage situation. There's no other town that has a tourism focus with a nuclear plant 20 miles away. And so the only way you can really, I believe, after a lot of study, is that you must look at it in a longer period of time. The outages repeat themselves every 3 years. And that happens to be the amount of months the BGI has been in existence. So what I did to assess this, because I was curious myself, is I took the hot tax for the last 3 years. I estimated the last two consistent. I estimated the last 2 months of this fiscal year. It's consistent with the percentage that our directors used, which is 2.7% from off, lower than the previous month. So when you add the total up for Visit Granbury, the 3 years they've been in existence, they've generated, or hot taxes generated, $2,151,586. The 3 years prior to that, under the city, it generated $1,724,000. There's a difference of $427,000 that has been increased over the last 3 years compared to the prior 3 years. That's a 25% increase. I also decided I would include the number of weeks that were outages during that period. There were 25 weeks in the outages from 2012 to 15, and there were 21 weeks under the last 3 years, which is at least four weeks less. I also saw something that was striking, and that is the number of months that exceeded $60,000. The prior 3 years was 7 months, and under the last 3 years, there were 18 months. And that really helped me view the effectiveness of Visit Granbury. So I wanted everyone to understand that my support of the 90-10 is based on the numbers. And that's all I wanted to point out to everybody.
Council, any more concerns or questions?
Well, Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the...
So we got to entertain a motion. Go ahead, Mr. Couch.
To approve the budget as presented.
So we've got a motion by Councilman Couch to approve the said budget as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Second by Councilman Allen. Council, any more discussion on the said budget for Visit Granbury?
Mayor, go on.
Councilman, what we got? Councilman Allen?
Both of us holler.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, there's some merchants out there that knows that there's a lot more people on the sidewalks today than it was 3 years ago. Has it been ran 100% correctly? No. Neither is our city. But, and I don't mean that in an ugly way, Chris. I just meant we all make mistakes. I'm looking myself in the mirror when I say that, okay, folks? I make mistakes up here. I made one while ago for getting mad at the mayor. I should have waited till I got him in the back room, and him and I could have talked it over. And so I apologize to y'all. But, you know, my wife, she probably comes downtown more than I do. And she says, I'm amazed at the people on the square. I hate to see us kill a good deal. I've been on the council, it'll be 9 years next year, if I make it another year. And I'm telling you, we went through about 3 directors that was over that department. And they all come in with good ideals. Every one of them wants to build a new website. And by the time the website gets posted, they go, we hire another one, same problem. Next one, same problem. It's kind of like the conference center. We did the same thing there. I think we've got a good man there now that's willing to do whatever it takes to make it work. And, you know, my dad always said, if it's not broke, why change? And I know it's a lot of people that wants control of everything that happens in Granbury. I'm not one of them. And I'd ask the rest of the council to vote in favor of this. And at the end of the year, if his numbers are not right, we can beat it up again. But I'd ask you to vote for it. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor,
Councilman Couch?
I just kind of want to summarize a little bit. VGI was commissioned to increase hot tax when they were formed, and they were commissioned with bringing more visitors to town. The square has never been busier. The merchants have never been happier. Sales tax has increased on the square. It's the heartbeat of our town. I'm not saying that the board has done everything right. They haven't. There's been also a wake-up call of this board. We had a meeting earlier tonight. And a lot was admitted that we can do better. And I think I can say we've heard the issues. The board's going to do everything they possibly can to change an image issue that some may perceive. But I'm asking the council to let this go one more year under the current funding agreement. Because if we cut it now, we're never going to know. We're never going to know the yield on the new visitor center. We're never going to know the true yield on the new software. We're never going to know the true yield of all the social. And the request that was made of the organization was to hire an event salesperson. We're in the process of doing that. We're never going to know the yield of that if you don't give this organization one more year. And I think you will probably see hot tax closer to 800,000 this next year. If it's not, I'm willing to forfeit my council pay. That's a joke.
That's humor right there.
It's not a very good one, I guess.
When you have to tell them it's a joke, it's pretty bad.
It was funny when I was thinking of it, though. So, again, I know there's been issues, and we're doing our best to change that thing. And I'm asking, I maybe even pleading for this council to let's let this roll one more year. We have a new chairman. There's a lot of excitement about what we're going to be doing. Please give us the chance to do that.
And just so for the record, yes, there are 2 council members that's up here that are on that board. So we appreciate what they're doing. Appreciate what the whole board has been doing. Council, any more discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilperson Reiner.
bear with me for a minute.
I will.
I applaud the board. You know that I know that you've put much time into this. You have taken time away from your businesses. You have taken time away from your businesses. You have used personal time to try to make this work. I want to say very carefully that I do agree with Gary and Tony. Our sidewalks are full. I have to have you guys understand that is not VGI's directive. Our directive is hot tax. It is heads in beds. That is our directive. There are multiple hoteliers sitting in this audience that we are responsible to. And we're not killing this deal. I told everybody in this room probably understands that I, of all people, do not want VGI to fail. I don't want the brand of VGI to fail. It has taken many years to get that brand out there. Has it been done properly? I don't believe it has, and that's unfortunate. We have a directive that we have not met, and to me, and this is probably not going to go over very well with my fellow board members, but to me, this is an expensive proposition to continue on a path that has not been successful for 3 years. And this is the first time I've seen this spreadsheet. I need to digest this. I don't necessarily agree with it. We have other numbers that say that hot tax is down by 2%. How many more times do we say we need one more year? And the board, I know that you have your heart and soul in this. I am on the board. Everybody knows that. I want it to succeed. I don't believe that on the path that it is right now, that it will be successful no matter how much harder we work to do it. We have up here and on the board a fiscal responsibility to the people who put the money in these coffers. I take that responsibility very, very seriously. And I think you all know that. I don't want to kill a deal, but I want things done properly. And I don't know that one more year and another one more year and another one more year is going to work. That is my own personal feeling. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to my fellow board member and fellow councilmen. We have to agree to disagree. And again, I applaud the efforts of the board. I have talked at length with them individually. I have talked at length with people in the community who are having a very hard time digesting what's been happening. And if I'm going to do anything, it is going to make sure, will be to make sure that what we do at the end of the day, that it is the right thing to do. Whether it's the popular vote or the right vote, I will go with the right vote every time. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilman Couch.
am I hearing you say that there's a compromise in there, or am I hearing you say you don't want to see this through any further?
The way that it sits right now with the board and the leadership, I don't believe that it will continue to be successful. I don't believe that it will be successful. I don't have the confidence level in the structure as it stands right now. I have confidence in the brand. VGI, Visit Granbury, is out there. It's getting out there, the name Visit Granbury. The leadership, in my own opinion, needs to be different.
Okay.
When you're saying leadership, are you talking about management?
I'm talking about leadership.
Okay, that'd be the people that runs it. Okay.
That's leadership.
Okay. You know, like I said, I've been on council a long time, and I have never asked for one more year. Never have on this. I voted for it. I've been behind it 100%. Like I said, there was mistakes made, but I've never asked for one more year. I just think if we cut it down, it'd be like asking Chris for us to cut down one of his departments on his budget and then tell him, okay, but I want you to hire somebody else to work in there to help run that department. We're asking them. I don't know how you'd do it. Do you, Chris? If you do, maybe we need to look at your budget.
I'm not going to respond. Y'all are debating back and forth here. I don't want to get in the middle of it.
Yeah,
Mayor.
the same difference.
Councilman Couch?
Yeah, just another perspective. What I hear Councilperson Reiner tell me is that we need to go in a different direction because we're down 2%. These numbers that I've presented you tonight are from Ava's spreadsheets. To do something different over 2%, I mean, can we imagine the job Chris would have if his departments are off 2%, and we would make a drastic change? I'm certainly willing to consider an amendment to the motion, Councilperson, to accommodate what you want.
Council, any more discussion?
I'm not quite sure.
We have a motion and a second out there still. And this is our opportunity to discuss.
Yes, what I'm hearing
Councilman
is that, thank you, Mayor. What I'm hearing is that you're not willing to cut. You'd rather just do away with it.
Do away with is a harsh term. Restructure, I think, is a better option.
to the board we got now or a different board?
There are other ways of doing things in the future that can still involve the people who are on this board. Whether that comes back to the city, whether it's done another way, there are options.
How long have you been on the board?
Since I was elected,
Almost a year.
yes.
Is there things that you talked to Mr. Couch about that you seen was going wrong with the organization?
I will tell you that until I spoke, not one person approached me until recently when I raised questions.
Have you ever brought it before the council?
I'm bringing it now.
I know, but I meant before tonight.
No, I have not.
Mayor,
Councilman Couch?
the other point I want to make is, again, the last 3 years over the prior 3 years is up 25%, $427,000. And what I failed to mention is part of that was during the sidewalk renovation project. You know, and we're talking about, because we're down 2% in a calendar year, the prior year, look at the number of outages. There was 5 weeks of outages under this last fiscal year. There were 10 the prior year. 10, double the prior year, and we're almost at the same level. If you really look at it, this is the most successful year we've had to overcome 5 weeks of outages. That's when everyone's happy, is when we have the outages, and we overcame 5 of them. I mean, my decision isn't based on my feelings. It's based on the numbers. I'm making a decision based on the numbers. You know, there's a lot of us in this room that have started their own businesses. We're in our 3rd year. We are in our 3rd year. To kill this now is way premature, and you're not going to see the yield that all these people's time's been put in. We've spent $200,000 on a renovation. That's down the tubes. It would be a big mistake. I wish you would come up with an amendment to my motion to keep this thing going.
Any more concerns, council?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilperson Reiner?
you're talking about us having a stellar few years. Are you talking about sales tax, or are you talking about hot tax?
I didn't say stellar. I said there's been a 25% increase.
Our sidewalks are full. That's what you were saying.
When you compare the last 3 years of our existence compared to the prior 3 years in this city.
Sales tax or hot tax?
Hot tax. This is hot tax. We were commissioned to increase hot tax. We're up $427,000. It's a 25% increase over the 3 years under the city. Those are from Ava's numbers.
Do you think that the hoteliers would agree that they had a good year? Because that's where this is supposed to be directed. We're trying to put heads in beds. Yes, the square has been full. I will grant you that. But the hoteliers are the ones that we should be accountable to, because that's our directive.
Okay, I can't control what hotel gets what business, but I can tell you that the hot tax has increased 25% under the direction of Visit Granbury, to the tune of $427,000. And the engine is running now. I mean, we had to put a website together. You know, the conference center is going through those struggles right now. The assets are in place. We got a brand new visitor center. And to not let this thing go 1 year to see what the real result is? Could I speak?
Mr. Kaufman?
Okay, we've sat here and talked about 6 years. We failed to mention that the lake was in a drought, 12 feet low. That negatively impacts the hotel stays. We know that. I think the hoteliers know that as well. But I've got, and y'all have this too, you've received the spreadsheet that goes all the way back to 1994, showing the hotel tax. The proper way to track hotel tourism is not by revenue. Yeah, that's a good indicator, but you know what? Right now, the hotels are in a price war. You can rent a room really, really below market rate right now in Granbury because there's a surplus overstocking the demand, okay? And so that's caused taxes. We receive a tax based on the gross rent of that room, not on the suggested retail price. And so you're not going to be able to measure effectively what's happening here because we don't know what the rates are. There is a report that tracks how many people actually stay in a hotel room, whether they pay tax or not. We're not getting that report. I've asked for it in the STAR report. We get it on a quarterly basis, but we didn't get it for tonight. For whatever reason, we don't need it. But that shows you how many people are staying in hotel rooms. This dollar amount, I mean, I'm looking back in 2009, and it was $590,000. Well, a few years later, it's at $540,000 and $557,000. And so you guys fired a guy that was running that department doing an awesome job. I'm not saying you, I'm saying the city council at the time fired a guy that was doing an awesome job. I don't know why. We had to pay money because of it, and we changed what we were doing, and here we go again. What I'm saying is these numbers that Gary's put together show for 15 through 18, $427,000. I can agree to that. I can agree that the 3 years prior to that was a drought. We don't know what the room rates were going for either. But how many people stayed here, we don't know. We can go all the way back to 1992 on these records because we've been keeping them that long. But the fact is that we've got a mess. You got a divided council. We need to be able to work together. We need to be able to make things happen in a positive way. What that takes, I don't know. Y'all make the decision. We're going to take whatever you give us and make it work. But my whole thing is we need to track how many people are staying in hotel rooms. VPL sitting back there is down $250,000 in revenue this year compared to last year, and I don't know why. No outage, whatever, but that's big money for him. Our hotel tax stays kind of static to last year, 3% different. That's static, but we've got good, nice quality hotels that are sitting there with 6 and 7 cars in their parking lot when I drive by at night. That's a problem. And we're talking during the week and during the weekends. Sometimes they get a little busy on the weekends, but anyway, that's kind of where I'm at.
Can I ask you a question?
Councilman Allen.
Let's say the city took it back over, and it come under your watch, Mr. City Manager, how would you put heads in bed?
Well, that's a good question. It needs to be on an agenda, and y'all would need to direct me what you would like to do. I can't sit here and give you an alternate plan B on the fly.
Okay.
That's not.
Well, you've been city manager for years. I figured you ran in this before.
I know how to do this.
How would you do it?
Well, you promote it. You have events in town. You do things to make people come to your
That
community.
comes under the conference center also, right?
Yeah. We've got a great.
We ain't done a good job on that either, have we?
I think if you look at your reports, we're up this year.
This year, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't tell how many people come.
Yeah, we have that report, and we give it to you.
On how many people come?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry you don't read what I send you.
Well, evidently I didn't. I'll apologize on that end of it. But let me ask you a question. Maybe the rest of the council's got an answer I don't have. How would y'all do it if we took it over?
Well, like the city manager said, Mr. Allen, that is another topic or agenda item if that happens. You know, we're getting off track when we start asking those questions because we're talking about the current budget that's been presented to us.
I understand.
And that's what I want to stay.
I just think
Okay.
it's
We need to
a
focus on
deal
that.
we're going to kill, but we don't have an answer on how we're going to get it out of the ditch.
Mr. Kaufman, would you answer that?
I would like to just give you this information, that the city is responsible for those dollars when they're collected. You've got a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, the hoteliers that collect it, the bed and breakfast, and those folks. It's our responsibility to reinvest those dollars and put heads in beds. And that can be done.
That's because of hot tax.
To increase, to generate hot tax. That's what it's for. It's self-sustaining, is the idea. It's a tool that the legislature passed that allows us to collect a hotel occupancy tax. And there's exemptions, and sometimes people stay in these facilities and don't have to pay it because they meet those exemptions. And that's hard to measure when you're sitting here looking at dollars and cents on a spreadsheet. And that's why I'm saying we need to know how many heads are in those beds. The occupancy rate of the La Quinta Inn on a Wednesday night before Christmas or something. You ought to be able to get those numbers. And the hoteliers can work with you to get those and provide you why they're in town. They can survey their customers and find out why they're coming to town. To my knowledge, we're not asking those questions. And I've always asked those questions.
Nobody is.
Right. And I think that the hoteliers, I know that the Holiday Inn asked those questions because I stayed there one night and they asked me that question. And, you know, I was overflow at my house. I needed to get out of there. It was full of my wife's friends. So, you know, I understand how it works in some places. But the thing is for us to sit here and formulate policy of what we want to do with $750,000 next year, if we're not going to continue the same way you're doing it now, is an unfair question for tonight. And that probably would require a workshop where we sit down and we talk about the different options that are available and how to structure it and what to do. It can be done any way y'all want to do it. That's what we're here to facilitate.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, Mr. City Manager, but, you know, I'm a builder, and if I went in and cut all my subs without having a plan how I was going to get those houses built, with all my subs being gone, I'd want to have a plan before I start cutting them. That's all I'm saying. That's the business end of it.
And I think that's what the city manager said. You know, we have touched up here. I'm sitting here just watching them, highlighting. We talked about my letter wasn't pertaining to this. You've covered every one of those items that I had in my letter as we've been talking up here. You've talked about everything.
I won't charge you, Mayor.
And the one thing that I said in the letter was the city manager, Chris Cobb, in his regular course of performing his job, is responsible for administrating the oversight that ensures the city funds, and he's doing that now, are spent in an efficient and responsible manner. So he already has a plan. If those funds fall back on the city, that is his plan. That is his plan to make sure that those funds are spent. And he will bring it to the council. The council will have the ability to say, this is what we want you to do.
You said he's
like we
already
have
got a
done
plan?
already.
You
That's
said
his, that's his job.
He's already got a plan, you said?
He has to have a plan.
I have several options available to the council if they make that decision.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Mobley,
I'd like to move that we call the question.
got a motion to call the question. Second?
Second.
We have a second. Call the question. All in favor of calling the question? Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Couch?
Nay.
Ms. Mobley?
Aye.
Ms. Reiner?
Aye.
As approved, we'll call the question. We'll go ahead and vote on this item as it said. We have that motion to approve the said budget as proposed, and we have this second. I didn't write the names down, but we have a motion by Councilman Couch and a second by Councilman Allen. Councilman Allen, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Councilman Couch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Mobley?
Nay.
Councilperson Reiner?
Nay.
Once again, with the absence of Greg Corrigan, I have a vote. My vote is nay also. That is not approved. We have no budget. We will move on to the next item, which is to consider making an appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission to fill a vacant seat.
Mayor, can we take a 10-minute recess?
You know, I'm going to honor that. We're going to go ahead and take a, let's take a 5-minute. How's that? Let's take a 5-minute recess, council.
I appreciate that.
Be back here in 5 minutes, please. Thank you. Council has reconvened after the short recess. We are back here at the City Council dais at 7:15. We will now resume the deliberation agenda. The item that will be up next will be to consider making an appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission to fill a vacant seat. This vacant seat was the vacant seat of Amber Ross, who has chose to get off that board. And so we have candidates here. Council, you've got John Boyd, Tracy Harper, Michael Shavita, Matt Tomlinson, and Carrie Young have expressed an interest in this board selection. So at this time, I'll leave it open to the council. If the council has any nominations for this board,
Mr. Mayor,
I'll entertain that.
I'd like to nominate Tracy Harper.
We have Tracy Harper. Council, any more nominations for this board? Well, if none, I'll entertain a motion then to approve Tracy Harper as the Historic Preservation Board new board member.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Mobley. Have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilperson Reiner. So we have a motion and a second. Council, any more discussion on this nomination? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. That is approved. Tracy Harper, I don't even see if she's in the audience. Tracy Harper will be the new board member on that commission. Our next item is to consider nominating 2 candidates to the Hood County Appraisal District Board of Directors to fill 2 positions with the terms expiring on December 31st, 2018, and adopt the resolution number 1822 to submit the names and addresses to the said candidates to the Chief Appraisal of the Hood County Appraisal District. I'm assuming, Carla, help me out, we can do that all in one motion, or do we need to separate that? Do you need that separated?
No, it's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't see you sitting there. No.
I don't want to give you any illegal.
Okay. Okay, and council, you can see the names here that the 2 candidates are actually serving right now, Brooks Goodwin and Brian Thomas, and they have selected that they would like to continue. But here again, council, if there's somebody that has expressed that interest to you outside the community, I will entertain any of those names also. So at this time, I will entertain the nominations for the 2 candidates for the Hood County Appraisal District by the City Council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Mobley.
have we had any feedback from Greg Stewart on these 2 current board members?
Pardon?
They are willing to serve.
Yeah, they are willing to serve. I actually talked to Greg Stewart and...
with Greg at the appraisal district?
Yes.
Okay.
That's who I talked to. He's saying they're willing to serve. They've served there for some time, and there was no other names there. So, candidates, council, anybody have any motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Mobley.
I'd like to nominate Brooks Goodson and Brian Thomas to fill those 2 spots.
So we've got a nomination for Brooks Goodwin and Brian Thompson and
Brooks
Goodson. And in that motion, I think we should also say and adopt the resolution 1822 to submit those names to the chief appraiser.
And adopt resolution 18-22 to submit the names and addresses of said candidates to the chief appraiser of Hood County Appraisal District.
Thank you. So we have that motion to select those 2 gentlemen and to present that to the chief appraiser. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilperson Reiner. So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion on these 2 candidates? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Did I have an aye down there?
I said that.
All in favor, okay. So that passes. Those two will be submitted to the Chief Appraiser Office. Item number 9 is to consider submitting an official ballot for the election of place 11 through 14 of the Board of Trustees for the Texas Municipal League Intergovernment Risk Pool. You know, this is something I don't believe we've done in the past, but it's been out there, and we are a member of the Texas Municipal League, so I think it's important that we be involved in this kind of, these placements. And so I'm going to let Chris Kaufman kind of give you a little background on that, and we do have some candidates on here, and I think we need to present 4 of them, but there's several of them that were applicants here. And I think Chris might have some suggestions here of some people that he has worked with. Chris, go on.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I did do some research, and place 11 and 12 are incumbent members, and they're also city managers, and place 13 and 14 are elected officials, and this board is made up of elected and appointed officials throughout the membership, throughout the state. The Intergovernmental Risk Pool is a coalition of cities and governments that have pulled together to have a consortium. It's not really insurance, it's consortium. And what they do is if they have a large claim, they're reinsured through Lloyd's of London and what have you. So this is a kind of a self-insured insurance pool that we're a member of, and then we get to nominate the board members every year as vacancies or elections become due. So I do recommend the 4 that are listed: Randy Crystal, Bert Lumbreras, Byron Black, and David Rutledge. Of course, you can choose anybody you want. I just done the research and felt like those were probably the strongest candidates for it. And there you go. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
And Chris, is this similar to the I guess the appraisal district where we submit those names, then they go to the Board of Trustees, I guess, and then they may have multiple names through other cities or whatever?
This is the official ballot, okay. And the highest vote getters will receive the placement to serve. And you'll make sure that the ballot gets out. Byron Black is the incumbent, and the place 14 does not have an incumbent, and so I got you. Typically what happens is once they get in there, their first term is they're learning, and then they become more proficient in what they're doing. I will say that things, our insurance claim that we had at the Brookshire Brother washout where we lost a lift station and we spent $1.4 million to repair that. Our insurance actually paid $1 million claim on something we were insuring for $20,000. So we were fortunate in that. But because of that claim, and they were resisting doing it, and it took the mayor and I to meet with the executive director of that organization to impress upon him what our policy said. And since that time, they have changed to not insure for more than 50% more than the value that you're claiming on your policy. So we were a little derelict in our value reporting, but because of that special loophole, they were able to cover up to $1 million for us. They've fixed that since then, and the board is the one that makes those decisions. Right. And so we have been going around with all of our assets and listing the proper value to replace them because we have replacement insurance on it. And so now we're paying the proper premiums and we're getting the proper coverage. So, but that's the kind of thing that they take up behind the scenes and represent the risk pool.
So it's important that we get the right people in those positions, and I thank Chris Kaufman for doing some research and his expertise and all his travels and his networking with people. It's good to know that he's familiar with these folks and know that they'll do a good job for us in representing us in the TML there. So there you have it, Council. You've got four of those folks that is recommended by our city manager, or you can choose some of the other ones from the list there. So I'm going to entertain a motion to nominate those 4 that our city manager, Chris Kaufman, has recommended: Randy Criswell, Bert Lumbreras, Brian Black, and David Rutledge. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Mobley. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second by Councilperson Reiner. Any more discussion on these candidates, council? Councilman Allen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Couch, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Mobley?
Aye.
Councilperson Reiner?
Aye.
That is approved. We will submit those names, and under your office, I guess, Chris?
Yeah, we'll take care of it.
Get that taken care of. Our next item is to consider further action for a request from Councilmember Gary Couch to have the city manager research and determine the feasibility and possible grants or other funding opportunities to install fire sprinkler suppression systems in all the historical buildings located on the Granbury Historic Square. Since this was brought to the council dais here by Councilman Gary Couch, I will let Gary Couch explain to the council what his thoughts are there. Mr. Couch?
Thank you, Mayor. The way this came about was, I guess it was probably 3 weeks ago. I was watching the news, and the Brazilian National Museum burned down, and they lost all sort of artifacts. And that triggered something. I remembered when Ennis's Square was on fire. And I thought, we need to at least look at this on how we can protect our downtown. And at this time, I'd like to run a little video that is self-explanatory.
Have we got it?
I think she does.
There's water running all in the store. I managed to get the backup tape out of the computer, so I've not lost anybody's prescription record. Bill Sanders, manager of Chamber of Commerce, has offered us the use of the conference room Chamber of Commerce. Set up down there to take care of the people's prescriptions so we can get back in. So I just feel, we've got damage, but we've lost a lot of beautiful buildings that we've had in it. We've lost what I consider the heart of Ennis. They called the fire department. The fire department was here within 2 minutes, and the fire was from the ground to the 3rd floor just by the time they got here. It looked like somebody looked like a blowtorch. And we just got everybody out, and I grabbed that backup tape because I don't want to lose the records. And I went back in a while ago to show one fireman how to get up to the 2nd floor. And there's water just running all through because I'm sure the roof is, we're getting a lot of smoke on our roof now. It may, I don't know. I just don't know. They've done the best they can under these conditions with this wind, though. That building's, 80 104 years old now.
Is that right?
They built in 1912. Yeah, and
Thank you, Bethany. Well, I think that says a lot about what might happen. And I think that if we don't try to at least investigate what options exist, I think we're being negligent about this. To recover from a fire like that would set us back decades. And we have a lot older buildings than 75 years on the square. So I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention and in hopes that I could get the support to have the city manager look into what options might exist through grants or, low interest loans or, but I think it's an investment worth considering.
Well, thank you, Councilman, for that. I mean, and it has always been a fear of mine, too, as you walk around the square and you see all those buildings without, a lot of them, I don't know how many of them have firewalls, but probably some of them do, some of them don't, probably none of them. But just to see something like this in a pretty close proximity, and as you looked at that, it was pretty much the same layout as we have right here in our historical square, and it would just be devastating. I mean, it'd be devastating to a lot of folks to see something like that happen. Not saying that the suspension system would even protect it, but it's a measure that they could look at to at least put something in place to protect it. When we built our Opera House, that was one of the things we took in consideration, and we wanted to make sure that that thing was protected also. So I appreciate that, Mr. Couch, of looking at that and wanting to know exactly what we could do and what we can do. So I think Chris might have some input on something like that, right, Chris?
You bet. About 2 years ago, I met with Mary Saltarelli about this very issue and asked her to, if she knew of any grant funding that would be available for something like this. And off the top of her head, she didn't know, but she told me she would look and get back with me. We've not been able to find anything through the years, but we'll certainly stir it some more. But, a viable expense for hot funds is 15% of it can be spent towards historic preservation of buildings. And so that may be a possible way to peel off some money to do towards a match of a larger grant or something like that. But we need to keep in mind also that these are private-owned businesses, and they are an asset to our square and a responsibility that we've taken on by adopting the historic district and being on the National Register. And so with that, there's a sense of urgency to make sure that we do all we can to protect those old buildings. But off the top of our head, there's not any grant funds out there. I remember when Ms. Saltarelli came not long ago to talk about the old hospital and talked about the number of grants available for that and the type of funding that's available. Pretty dismal to restore that old building, and obviously it would need a new sprinkler system as well. But we do have some fire code requirements. Our Opera House meets the fire code. It does have a sprinkler system. As people remodel and do things differently, they have to meet the fire code, and they can meet that in different ways. But not having a double layer firewall between each one of these old buildings is certainly a risk, and it highlights the need to be sensitive to fire prevention. And that means making sure that the restaurants that are there are doing all they can, and they have the proper fire suppression over their kitchen equipment, things like that that are required. And that costs money, and that's borne by the restaurant owner itself. So as we travel down that road to figure out what we want to do, you're going to have to, as a council, decide how that actually lays out, because to grant a good or services to a private company is against the state constitution. So there's got to be some kind of an incentive or something to get the property owner to be engaged in that activity and be invested in it. And I'm not saying you couldn't apply for grants on their behalf and work it together, but I'm not sure that a grant from the state of Texas or from the federal government would be able to be used on private property like that. It's a philosophical, political hurdle, so to speak. So anyway, we'll look at it if that's what y'all want.
And I will recommend or encourage council, as we talked about earlier in the meeting here, we've got a couple of real important conferences we're going to go to. The TML conference down in Fort Worth, the ARCIT conference, and so there's a lot of networking that go on, and I would encourage everybody that's there to reach out to these communities that are similar to ours, address these issues, see what they've done, what kind of measures they've taken, because I promise you some people will be able to answer some of those questions that will have some of the same issues with those, and so there'll be a lot of people that you can talk to about those kind of things and see if we can get some information on what they've done, or maybe other than the grants and things like that. So, but thank you, Chris, for that research, and we'll probably continue to see what is out there that we can legally do. Council, any more discussion on this item?
Do we need a motion for Chris to continue doing that, or that's what he's going to do on his own?
I would like for you to make a motion. If you're wanting me to appropriate money towards that, then I would need action from y'all.
I'm not saying put the money up. I'm saying to find out if there's a grant out there or something that can be done.
In order to search for the grant, we probably need to pay Mary to do that for us.
I would encourage, like I said, coming up this year, and everybody's been to TML knows that you can find somebody out there that's been involved in this. I would encourage the council to start with, to try shaking the bushes, find out who's been involved in some of these same situations here, or what kind of measures that they've taken, because I'm sure everybody in these small historical communities and towns like that is similar to Granbury, and one of them that sits right out there, I know that they've done some things, is Glen Rose right down the street, because I've had some conversation with them, and they have the same issues, and what they've done, I don't know. So it could start right there, finding out what some of the other folks have done to protect that. And like Chris said, the biggest thing, though, is our code and enforcements that we do, making sure that lighting is proper, making sure that if they're cooking in the kitchens and things like that, that those things are met by the code, and that they're not putting any of those buildings or any other buildings at harm. So fire protection is big, but when it happens, it'll spread like wildfire when you got those buildings like that are close together and are so historical.
I might just say that the importance of a fire sprinkler system makes a huge difference. You could look at that fire, you can find it on YouTube, that happened out on the Membrino Highway at that apartment complex. In less than 20 minutes, it was completely engulfed and involved in the fire beyond any possibility of salvaging it. And it doesn't take long for a fire. I mean, it doubles rapidly and exponentially. And without proper fire prevention in place, that's what you end up with. And people are going to, we deal with this every day at City Hall. We have to tell people to follow the fire code, and they get very upset with us. But the bottom line is without it, and we have great measures in place, and that we've adopted the 2015 fire code, and it requires people to comply. Without it, we're setting ourselves up for disaster.
So Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Bobley.
So effectively, we could go to these meetings, network, find out if there's a possibility for public money for private property, and at that point, direct the city manager to do so.
Yeah. Do some of the homework, do some of the footwork, yeah. I agree.
It's so much easier to let Chris do it.
Well, I know, but Chris is, he's a busy man. He's a busy man. But
some of it, Mayor, that you said, or one of you, the merchants may have to chip in.
Oh, yeah.
But their insurance will go down if they got it. So the savings may be enough for them to offset a loan to do it.
And I'm sure that a lot of the owners of these buildings have taken that into consideration. I mean, there are a lot of folks, I mean, there's buildings out there that are owned by people in Fort Worth, Dallas, whatever. I don't know who all owns most of the buildings, all the buildings, but I would assume that with an investment and the value of those buildings and stuff, that they would be considering what if, you know, so that kind of stuff.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilman.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion to direct the city manager to come back to the city council with options for fire protection, and that could be a wide range of things,
Yeah.
To protect our downtown square buildings.
Would you want that? I would like to be able to do that after some of these conferences, because I think he will be talking to people too, so I wouldn't want it at the next meeting probably.
No, I'm thinking we probably need 90 days at least, I would think.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is a motion to have the city manager continue to research this and bring back to the council what our options would be within 90 days. Right?
Second.
We have a second? Second by Councilman Mobley? Yeah, that's you. All right.
The man.
Any more discussion on this, council?
Mayor?
Councilperson Reiner?
Would it be possible to actually ask Mr. Kaufman to also come back with Mr. Couch's suggestion with a budget or an estimate on what it would cost for Mary to also search?
Well, I think that's what he was asking, yeah, to do all that, and then if we decide that's where route we want to go and everything, but I don't think we want to spend the money until after we've done a research.
No, I just want an
Right.
estimate.
Okay. I think that's appropriate. You clear on that?
Go ahead and vote.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
That is approved. We'll give you one more item to do there.
Thanks for giving me more to do.
Yeah.
I love it.
With that, I'll now declare that the Granbury City Council is convened into open session, that all members except Councilperson Greg Gorgon are present. The City Council will go into closed session pursuant to the provisions of Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in the following section, Section 551071, station with our attorney, 551072, deliberation regarding real property, 551074, personnel matters with the city attorney, or the city attorney's personnel matters, and 551087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. Has reconvened in open session. There was no action taken in executive session at this time. Council, are there any more comments or issues that you'd like to discuss? If no issues, this council meeting is adjourned.